Hi everyone. Well, what a fantastic day we had yesterday. Wasn't that a lot of fun? So as promised, I am doing some quick sketch painting of some fish, just to show you that you don't have to sketch up and you can just paint directly onto the paper, and this can be such a fun way to paint. So if I was doing the angelfish, so I'm kind of doing this shape. Now I'm painting in an iridescent color. It's a pearlescent white to start off with, and I'm just tinting the paper with that pearlescent white, and just in a shape. So we've got some fins, we've got this shape here, we've got a rounded shape down here, another couple of lovely fins down here. They're such an interesting shape, these fish. Okay, so let's put a bit of colour into it because you can't see anything at the moment. So let's just put some pinks. I'm going with the pearlescent iridescent garnet. And I'm working wet in wet. So I've made a wet puddle on the paper and I'm just working wet in wet. Now I'm looking at it over here at a little bit of buff titanium, just to bring in another value, because this is exactly the same colour as the paper. So now I need to bring in some colour, and you can see working wet in wet, letting the colours flow without trying to paint. I'm letting the paint do the work. That's just giving me a little bit more colour. This one has almost like whiskers. All right, so I started off with iridescent or pearlescent white, which is an iridescent, lovely colour. Now, and also these pearlescents and iridescents work very well on black watercolour paper. Have a go at that, that's incredible. So I'm just picking up some duochrome turquoise, and I'll just put that into the tail. Now this might not be representational, and sometimes I actually like to paint that way. So let's bring in some fins. A little bit more now, a little bit of iridescent ruby. They are such pretty fish, and today we've been to Sydney and bought 2 more additions to our fish tank, of course, which are more angelfish, and a very rare type of angelfish, I'm told. These are red, now let me think, red devils, and they are quite interesting. So they've got a bit of red up in here. Let's go with a couple of shades of red. So they've got a little red head here. Now you can see I'm still working wet in wet. Now this is where you just need to give it a go. And don't worry, it's just paper. Just continue to give it a go and see what happens. There are some good things that happen when you do that. Okay, so if you're doing the eye, you need to let it dry off. But there are some black sections to this, little black stripes. Of course, each one is individual. Still working wet in wet. Why work wet in wet? Well, working wet in wet gives you a lovely soft look to your work, to your painting. And it continues to change as it dries, so it continues to work for you. This is why I always say, put it down, walk away, because that is continuing to work as it dries. And that could take an hour, it could take 2 hours. That just depends on the weather conditions mainly. If it's really dry, or if it's not. If it's a wet day, it'll take longer to dry. Okay, so that's my red devil, basically painted directly on to the paper, not drawn up at all. So if I'm doing, say, a discus fish, let's just do that. So they're very round. So you just get a round brush. Come out to a little peak where the mouth is. I actually think that this is the most fun way to paint in watercolour. Lifting out. Tail. These ones have a little black tail. The whole thing here is wet in wet, straight onto the paper, no drawing. No drawing up at all. So you can come in later and redefine. I'll put in a little bit of shading. And I must leave that to dry before I can put an eye in. Okay, there are some little tiny little tetra fish floating around in our tank. They're very cute. So I'll go with an iridescent blue, some cad red. They've got a bit of red that runs through them. Now if you've got a good brush like this, you can dry it out. You can make a beautiful point like this. Again, that's all I basically need to do for that little fish. Very simply done. Let's put some little red fins. All I need to do then is maybe I'll just put a little bit of light and shade by lifting out, is when that dries, I'll put a little spot of black just in here for the eye. So what else do we have? We've got some little white fish called a rummy-nosed tetra. And let's put that down. And they're interesting because they've got spotty black tails, which is very cute. But they've got red right on the nose. Now, before we got into keeping fish, I had no idea there were so many different types. And they really are quite interesting. So on the tails of these rummy-nosed tetras, they have little black spots. Okay, so there we are. We've got 4 fish painted. We've got an angelfish, we've got a discus fish, we've got a rummy-nosed tetra, and we've got a electric tetra with the lovely bright blue. So using the iridescent paints and some not, that's quite all right. They will look pretty awesome when they dry out, and when I put the eye in, they're too wet to do that now, so that's just a little finishing touch that you put in later. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the workshop. Talk to you later.